Wow, the very best of the Rajasthan Royals, 107 for 1 in the first 10 and 107 for 1 in the last 10 to power their way to 214, yet another 200 plus score in this year's IPL on what looks to be a very fine batting surface at the Savai Mansingh Stadium. We haven't had that in every game, but every other game we seem to be getting some runs in Jaipur. They'd be happy with that, the home side, who are trying to end this odd patch of form where they've won just 1 out of 5. There'll be questions asked of the Sunrisers whether they could have done any better. But we did see Buttler at his best, and we know how many teams have struggled to stop him. He fell 5 short of what had been a special 6th IPL ton that would put him joint with Chris Gayle as the league's most prolific ton getter. Tom Moody doesn't care much for milestones, but I'm sure sooner or later, if Buttler keeps going, he'll get there. On Visit Saudi presents ESPNcricinfo T20 Timeout. That's as good as you would have wanted a response if you wanted a response if you're Rajasthan Royals, Tom. 214.
Very much so. That's the Rajasthan Royals we all thought at the beginning of the tournament was the threat, or one of the threats for the tournament. You know, a finalist, you know, most people I think had them listed as one of their favoured finalist top 4 teams, and this is why. It was interesting, you mentioned that Buttler innings ended up with a strike rate of just a tick over 160,
yes.
Which is not sort of, you know, blowing... In this day and age, it's not really, you know, blowing your hat off, but it was an innings of 2 parts. It was an innings of him recapturing confidence and form, and then, you know, the boss came out. It was so it was an interesting transition of still finding his way, still getting that rhythm to his game, and then bang. So that 160 is really the reflection of that. Otherwise, if he bossed it from the beginning, it would be close to 200. Yeah. But he has the ability to turn it very quickly around those sort of runner ball starts and turn it into something significant.
I guess this innings would mean a fair bit to Jos Buttler, because even when Jos Buttler has not batted well, that's usually how he plays. We've seen that sort of innings, a 70 of 45, 50 or a 90 of 60, where he takes some time, tees off, and that's usually the Buttler who's not blazing away from ball 1. This year we've seen the Buttler out of form, if you want to call him that, or at least out of runs. He's had low scores, he's not looked great, and we're looking at him having perhaps his leaner season, which is still a pretty good one. But you sense with the playoffs now approaching, fast coming on us, this is just the innings Rajasthan wanted from Buttler?
Absolutely. You know, he's recaptured his mojo, and I think the term he used there, he's out of runs. It's not really form. When you're in the middle of a tournament and you're a world-class player, you don't tend to you lose form. You just sort of find ways of getting out in the fast pace of T20 cricket. It's not like Test cricket where you do legitimately fall out of form because of, you know, you've got time and your game is scrutinised over a longer period of time and examined by the opposition. So T20 cricket's a lot faster pace, as we know. But there was other, you know, considerable contributions to kick off that whole innings, and I think Jaswal again sort of set the tone for Rajasthan to secure that 200 plus score. It's
interesting that Jos Buttler, while speaking to the broadcaster at the innings break, makes a mention of Jaswal. It's nice to hear from what Buttler makes of it. He said he wanted to go hard at the top, but he decided to bat without ego, take his time at the start. He says he's learned over the last few years you can soak up pressure for a few balls and catch up easily. And he mentions Yashasvi Jaiswal batting beautifully and that it allows him to sometimes tuck behind him and get a start.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? We've got arguably one of the greatest white ball modern day players, giving a young player that praise. He's happy to sit in his shadow just for a period of time while he recaptures his own game. And isn't that, you know, that just continues the story about Jaswal, doesn't it? It's a great story from where he's come from to where he's at now, and the form that he's showing and the way that he's going about his business. But the story about how you've got the learnings there from both, you know, a senior overseas player of stature in Jos Buttler and Jaswal, who is an emerging player of significant talent.
Yep. Yeah, and his story is, well, you could say not even begun. This is just his IPL story
Yeah.
bearing fruit. There's an India story that Tom Moody and many other voices from the game seem to almost have full faith that it'll come at some point. Right, Sanju Samson at 3, 66 of 38. Of course, Buttler and Jaiswal, but I guess this is also a big box ticked that Samson didn't just get a 30 of 12 or 30 of 15 today, and that he's carried on and got 66 of 38, Tom.
Yeah, Samson's innings today was a smart innings. I think the last innings, I think he would have kicked himself all the way back to the hotel room after that game, you know, because he breezed to 30 in a typical Sanju Samson style with classy shots and seamless, you know, effort and timing. But he recognised that he's on the cusp of a real run of hot form. And today he cashed in on that and made sure that, you know, that when the ball wasn't quite there, he was happy to push that into gaps for ones and twos, and then when the ball was in his arc, he then found the boundary, which he does with ease.
All right, different looking Sunrisers bowling today, but what did you make of them? Could they have bowled any better?
I think it's pretty hard when you get the onslaught that they got. Again, it looks a very good surface. To me, you know, the Sunrisers to me look very much like a side that still finding their way and getting to know each other, which is a concern when you're so many games into a tournament. And when you're early in a tournament, you can sort of understand that from a batting standpoint. You're sort of getting to know everyone's role and familiarity around, you know, batting together and all those types of things, communication between the wickets, and it's the same with bowling. And you know, the bowling. It just seemed to me a little bit lost at times. They came back nicely for a couple of overs towards the end, but you know, it's pretty hard to be too critical of their bowling performance, because it was a pretty good show from Rajasthan with the bat.
Is this we already spoke about Umran and Karthik Tyagi, and I wonder if you want to revisit your thoughts and reinforce whether that they could have made a difference today on this particular surface. And the other is if they've actually identified their best bowlers. Their bowlers have done a better job than their batters have, Tom, but they seem to get in Jansen for Farooqi very early and never go back to him. It seems like on these sorts of surfaces, what you classify often as a defensive bowler like Farooqi might come in handy. Yeah,
definitely. And the other thing I look at is, if you're only taking 2 wickets, that's telling you don't have any impact or any bite in your attack. And one thing that Umran Malik or Tyagi bring is genuine pace. And if you're looking for wickets, okay, it may come at a cost, but you know, it's important to be continuing to take wickets and bring Joe Root to the crease. He's playing, you know, in his first IPL, bring an out of form Hetmide to the crease earlier, instead of, you know, finding it hard to make those breakthroughs and just going through the not the motions, but going through the overs to get to the 20th over. You know, I think that there is certainly something missing there in the middle, and they've got it on the bench, but they're not using it.
Have you ever been in this bittersweet position of batting, say, an R. Ashwin at 7 till the last few games because your top order does the job always? Then after a few games you say, no, we need Joe Root into this team. And that's the game where you get 2-1, 4 for 2 and Root doesn't walk out to bat.
It's amazing, isn't it? It is incredible. Well, I sort of made the call that I thought he'd open purely because, you know, I agree with the selection. But I didn't think it was going to be for Trent Boult. And we don't really know yet what Trent Boult's situation is, whether he's being rested or he's injured.
You can only assume it's a bit of a niggle and they're being cautious. And the other thing we do know now is Obed McCoy has marked his run-up. Matt Roller's been busy at the ground. He tells us that Obed McCoy is going to be brought in as the impact sub. No surprises there?
No surprises. He's, I suppose, the specialist when it comes to the defensive type role with the ball. Jason Holt is a genuine all-rounder that, you know, provides you, impact with the ball in a different way than what Obed McCoy does. You know, Obed McCoy brings you, that variation of slower balls, and also gives you a left arm angle, which is always nice to have a change of angle.
There were 2 overs in those last 3, which went for just 12. Now, if you're Sunrisers Hyderabad and Rajasthan just 2 games ago have seen Mumbai gun down 200 plus, in fact 215, this sort of score. Are you telling yourself that, you know what, they could have outbatted us, but they haven't, and we're still in this game. Do you get that sense?
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if they're not thinking they can't chase this down. That they'll be a little bit shell shocked, because it's like sort of being in the ring for 10 rounds with Mike Tyson, then picking yourself up. So right, okay, there's still more of this to come. But what they'll see is the high boundary count. That there was 11 sixes hit, 19 fours hit in that innings, and they'll see that clearly this is a good batting surface to take advantage of if I get set. So what the Sunrisers have got, they have got some power in their batting lineup. So if someone like a Tripathi or an Abhishek Sharma are up front, or a Markram, or now Phillips or a Klaasen, who's already got going in this tournament, suddenly catch fire, there's no reason why they can't chase this down, because it is a good surface. And
we must point out, Vivrant Sharma is known for his hard-hitting ability. So on paper, that's a team that bats 8. You throw in the impact sub, who will come in now at some point. That's a team that bats 9, with Bhuvaneshwar Kumar possibly walking out at 10. That's the worst number 10 in the league. So you've actually got a deep batting, at least on paper. Is that the game then? Just a boundary count game, similar to what we've talked about at the Chinnaswamy?
Yeah, I think it is going to be very much that. And to be honest with you, I think the heavy lifting's got to be done up the front. To rely on your 7, 8, 9, even though you do bat deep, I think nearly the race will be run. We've seen so many run chasers be left too late, and key players like the Phillips and Klaasens of the game nearly get battered out of the game purely because their entry point's too late and the run rate's too high. So it's going to be interesting that they manage that run rate right from the get-go, and it doesn't get too far beyond 11s, 11.5, 12.
On that note then, would you sense any tweaks in entry points for someone like Klaasen, who clearly is the in-form batter, and you've got a Glenn Phillips who's coming back after a while, Vivrant hasn't played, Samad. Would you like to see someone like Klaasen perhaps get a bit of a promotion today?
I think on the back of when the Royals look to use their spin, I think Klaasen is your man you inject into the game, because he's got the reputation, and quite rightly the reputation, of being a very good player of spin. So I think it's a way for the Sunrisers to negate the strength of the Rajasthan Royals by throwing their ace on the table against their best spin.
All right. Well, they also have a fairly inexperienced bowling this game, do the Royals. They've got Kuldeep Yadav back, who's played the one game. They've got Obed McCoy playing his first game. So in the absence of Trent Boult, and Murugan Ashwin also hasn't featured a lot. So this is a potent bowling attack when we started the tournament, but does that perhaps give you a sense that this may not be as easy? If you had Boult in there and maybe an Adam Zampa or a form Jason Holder, you think, they should defend this easily. But you sense it's not going to be as straightforward?
The door's open. The door is, it's not wide open. Maybe I could squeeze through it. Maybe not you, but
it's wide open enough if you can.
Put it this way, we both won't squeeze through. But it is open. But I sense that Raw's got their head in front here, not just the nose.
All right, fair enough. Tom Moody, thank you very much. More from you at the end of the game. Anmolpreet Singh has walked out, as we again had anticipated on our pre-show, and he will replace Natarajan to strengthen or at least lengthen that batting order. We pick up the chat on Visit Saudi presents ESPNcricinfo T20 Time out at the end of the game to see if the Royals have finally picked up 2 points and moved in the right direction. If Hyderabad win this, that's a serious upset, and that'll make for quite the conversation too once we look at the points table. You can check that out on the ESPNcricinfo mobile app. You can get it from the App Store or Play Store. It's worth looking at this regularly after every game of the IPL with the impact it has in what's a closely contested race to the playoffs. We'll see you at the end of the game.